You're welcome, Mike.
So today, again, I got a fantastic introduction, and you guys are going to learn a lot of really interesting things about the Amazon App Store, including the fact that we sell apps for all Android devices, not just the Kindle Fire. You're going to learn about the programs that the Amazon App Store has to help you monetize your apps, which is great because that really doesn't take any work on your part. Also, we're going to talk about some of the APIs that are available, which actually do require some work on your part. Additionally, we'll talk about how to optimize for the Kindle Fire devices. So, one of the things that I'd like to get started with is just a little bit uh, about working in the webinar format. The webinar is being recorded, and mute is on by default, so I can't hear you. If you do have questions, and I hope you do, please do type them into the webinar client. You can see a questions section on there, and if you go ahead and type in the questions, we have someone on our end who will go ahead and collect those. We'll try to answer the ones that are super easy and don't require a whole lot of research and preparation. In the event that we can't get to your question, we will certainly save them and get back to you with answers to those questions. My problem is that I can't actually think and talk and type all at the same time. So we may end up getting back to more of those offline or at the end of the session. And of course, all of the standard emergency criteria apply. Without further ado, on we go. So the Amazon ecosystem is actually fairly rich, much richer than a lot of people think. So I'd like to go ahead and start by mentioning we have a mobile app distribution portal. This is something I will refer to as the dev portal in our conversations moving forward. It's free to get an account, and once you've signed up for an account, you can download the software development kit, which has all of our APIs in it. Using your favorite IDE, we have great plugins for Eclipse. You can start writing your app. One of the other neat things about the Amazon ecosystem is that we have APIs for Amazon Web Services that take about half the code that you would normally have to write to interface with your data on Amazon Web Services. We also interface with Amazon.com, so you can actually sell physical goods from within your app by using our Mobile Associates API to link with Amazon.com. We also have lots of third-party support. For example, if you're building a game and you like Unity or Cocos 2DX or Marmalade, we have third-party support as well. So after you've finished writing your app, go ahead and submit it to the Amazon App Store for Android. It will not only be available on the Kindle Fire devices, but it will also can be available on all other Android devices as well. Speaking about all other Android devices, you're also free to submit that to other Android app stores if you wish. However, should you choose to submit it to other Android app stores, please be aware that you'll be, potentially missing all of the fantastic programs that Amazon offers to help you monetize your apps. I'll talk about these at length in just a little bit, but these are all things that Amazon provides that are unique to services on our App Store. So after you've sold your apps on Amazon.com, they show up on Android mobile devices, and you can find out how they're doing by going back to the dev portal and looking at the application management pages on the portal and looking at the different reporting services on the portal. Next is an overview of those great App Store programs you saw on the previous slide. First, the Amazon App Store for Android. It's free. You can go ahead and sign up now at no cost. You get the same 70-30% revenue split that you get from other app stores as well. When you sign up, you can get access to almost 200 countries for your market, and we can work on almost all Android devices. The neat thing about the Amazon App Store is it's also the only app store available on Kindle Fire devices. Uh, we're pretty proud of some of the press we've gotten for the App Store, particularly the sense that it monetizes really well. As a matter of fact, recent research done by Flurry shows that per user, the Amazon App Store generates about 89% of the revenue that the iTunes Store does, compared with 23% of average per user revenue from Google Play. So right off the bat, you can see that Amazon is very good at converting users to actual paid income. Very happy about that research. One of the programs that we have is called Amazon Coins. Amazon Coins is a virtual currency that users can buy at a discount if they buy enough coins that they can spend on your apps and your in-app purchase items. The customer gets a material discount on apps and in-app items, but you get paid the same as you would if they had spent actual cash. So Amazon shoulders the discount for the user, not the developer. Recently, we sent every Kindle Fire owner 500 coins. And since they can only be used on apps and in-app purchase items, we saw a whole lot of traffic go to apps, which was really good for everybody's visibility. For example, I bought an in-app purchase item that I never would have purchased in a game that I enjoy. Actually, I enjoyed that so much, I went and actually spent non-coins money on buying another in-app purchase from that same game. So this is a great way to make sure that we get users out to your apps and that we can give them a discount for being loyal customers and high volume customers in our app store. Test Drive is great for people who really like kicking the tires before they buy something. For example, a lot of people who have been disillusioned by a lot of low quality free apps may want to actually take a look at it before they go ahead and download it. And if they're interested but they don't know if it's going to be great or not, they can use Test Drive. They log on to Amazon.com on their computers. And they can see all of the Android apps for sale. And on their PC, they can actually, or Mac, they can see a virtualized instance of your app running in a JVM, and they can try it out. And they can see that even though it's free, it offers a lot of value. Or conversely, if it's fairly expensive, so if it's $3 or $4, they can try it and find out that yes, it really is worth the extra expense to go ahead and get your app. It's a very attractive thing for users to do who would like to try things out. And it's one more way we can help convert potential customers into actual customers for you. By the way, there's nothing that you need to do to be eligible for the Test Drive program. We test all of the apps that you submit, and the ones that work well on the Test Drive program are included. And you also get put into a special search group. So if someone wants to browse for all Test Drive applications, your Test Drive compatible app will go ahead and show up there. Again, another good way to surface your app. The free app of the day program is really, really popular. Every year, we select 365 high quality applications that the developers have nominated to be in the program, and we give them away for free for a day. That means that we don't collect any revenue, and well, your rev share of zero would be zero for the day, so you don't collect any revenue. What you would collect is a whole bunch of downloads and a whole bunch of users. And if you have in-app purchase items, that's a whole bunch of traffic through your in-app purchase items. This is a great way to go ahead and get visibility, and a lot of people can review your app and give your publishing house a lot of exposure. But it's even a great way to get exposure if you're not one of the 365 apps selected. What this program does is it gives all of our store users a really good reason to come back, if not every day, fairly frequently, so they can see what the free app of the day is. And since to see what the free app of the day is, they're also going to see recommendations, and hopefully your app will show up in front of the people who are most likely to buy it through the Amazon recommendation engine. This is a fantastic way of getting more people, more opportunities to look at, find, and purchase your application. And then, of course, the personalized recommendations. Amazon is really good at this. It's really good at seeing the kinds of things you've purchased and figuring out what kinds of things you might really like based on what you've purchased, as well as taking a look at what you're browsing for now and suggesting complementary assets For example, if you have a let's say you have a GPS application. Your GPS app may show up as a recommended item for a person who just put hiking boots and a sleeping bag and a camp stove in their shopping cart. So they've put all of these camping things in their shopping cart, and we say, hey, this GPS app may be appealing to you. So we'll go ahead and show it down there as a recommendation, getting your digital item, your app, in front of people who are buying physical goods on the Amazon.com store. Nobody else can help market and leverage your app like that. So we're pretty excited about all of the different programs that we have at Amazon to help surface your app and get it attention. The only thing that required any work is free app of the day. And if you would like to be considered for free app of the day, all you need to do is click the checkbox, please consider me for free app of the day, when you submit your application in the App Store. Everything else, absolutely no work required on your part. So, what does require work on your part? Well, this is a good chance to go into the SDK and take a look at the APIs that you can leverage to help monetize your app. What's in the mobile app SDK? Well, we talked about the emulator. We talked about the IDE plugins earlier. We do have some IDE plugins for Eclipse at the moment. This is great. For example, it includes the Intel and ARM-based emulators for the Kindle Fire devices. It also includes views. So if you're looking at your layout XML file, you can actually specify a view in Eclipse that shows what it would look like on the Kindle Fire devices, which is pretty neat. We've got code samples, etc., that you can download. And of primary interest are the APIs. You'll see a bunch of them here, and I will start going into each of them in detail. Let's see, I believe I've already covered that. Oh, yeah, so the APIs. One of the great things about our APIs is that we're trying to make them as broad as possible. We have two APIs that are specific to Kindle Fire, our maps and device messaging. We have in-app purchasing, which works on any app sold in the Amazon App Store for Android, regardless of which device it ends up on. And three of our APIs that we're going to talk about today will work on any Android device, regardless of what App Store you sell it in. So this is going to be really big as far as helping you write to the APIs once, and then being able to keep that code regardless of where you sell the app. In-app purchasing. In-app purchasing is analogous to in-app billing in Google Play. And we offer three different kinds of purchasing available through our API. Consumables. So if you have a game dungeon crawler, for example, and you need your character to get a new sword, you can have your or new power-ups. Your character can buy power-ups, or if you have a word game, you can buy hints for getting the correct answer in the word games. These are good consumable items because the power-ups can be consumed and used up, the hints can be consumed and used up, and the user can be given an option to purchase more. Entitlements give you durable access for something. I mentioned a sword for your dungeon crawler character earlier. A sword you probably wouldn't use up. A sword the customer would buy for their character, and they'd be able to use the sword as long as they were playing the game. Other things you can use entitlements for are expansion packs or additional levels for a game. Or if you have a utility or productivity application that has a premier feature set, you can use entitlements for this. One of the things that I see a lot on app stores is a free version of an app and a paid version of an app. One has kind of a limited set of functionality, the free version, and the paid version has a much richer set of premium features. The difficulty with this is now you've got to have two different apps that you manage in two different entries in an app store. And, unfortunately, that also means you've got two different code branches that you need to maintain, and it can just be more difficult. With in-app purchasing and entitlements, it becomes really easy. You have one application and you have a feature set that's just turned off until a user buys an entitlement to a premium feature set. And that way you still show up as free. And when a user tries to use some of the advanced features, you can present them with an opportunity to purchase access to the advanced feature set using in-app purchasing entitlements. Subscriptions are also pretty useful. Subscriptions, normally people think of magazines, but it goes beyond just being able to buy magazines. For example, if you have a service that gives you a data feed of traffic or of stock prices or of something else, people can subscribe to the data feed. As long as they have a valid subscription, they can keep getting access to that data or keep retrieving data from that data feed. Similarly, if you want to take your productivity app and you want to give people a year's worth of access to a feature set or enhanced services, you can sell people a subscription to advanced features. One of the neat things about subscriptions and Amazon in-app purchasing is that we have an automatic renewal function. So instead of the user's subscription running out, they can't access the data or they can't access the feature, and then they have to go and take a positive action to go back in and actively renew the subscription. We can auto renew your subscription customers. So unless they opt out, their subscription will automatically renew and they never see a break in service, which is very convenient not only for our customers, but actually a pretty good way for you to help monetize people by overcoming the barriers required to resubscribe proactively. In-app purchasing is probably one of our most popular APIs, and you will hear me refer to it throughout the webinar as IAP. So when I say IAP, I'm not just mispronouncing API, it's actually in-app purchasing. Next, we have mobile ads, another good way to monetize your application. Mobile ads are for people who want to put banner ads or full page ads or even interstitials in their application. We have a really great revenue per 1,000 impressions on our ads, primarily because we don't just do small people nobody's ever heard of. We actually leverage the Amazon corporate strength of marketing and advertising for this. We bring in name brand advertisers. For example, Amazon.com is an advertiser in our mobile ads network, so that it really kind of helps bring a level of gravitas to your application. We have banner ads, which are HTML view ads, and expandable interactive ads. These expandable interactive ads, when a user clicks on them, they expand and let the user work with the ad, or they simply will show audio or play video for the user while the ad is playing. You can get an interstitial ad for your application by instantiating one of our larger banner ads inside a view or an activity, and then the user can go ahead and close that or change views to move back into your application, so that you have a lot of flexibility with how you want to present that to your user. You can also target ads by gender and location, and this helps you actually get a lot more click-throughs, and it goes deep into our catalog and makes sure that you're going to get ads that are appropriate by gender and locale. You can also exclude certain advertisers, advertiser categories, or URLs if you don't think that they would be appropriate for your users. Please note at this point that when you choose to exclude categories and URLs, they are excluded for all of your apps that use mobile ads, not just one app in particular. Really great quote from Games to Win down there on their experience with our mobile ads. Next is mobile associates. So if you have an app that talks about, let's say, hiking, or a GPS app, one of the things you might want to do is actually offer users physical goods that they can buy. You could actually sell physical products from Amazon.com in the context of your application. So you never actually leave the context of your app, which is a good user experience, yet they can actually buy a product from Amazon.com, and you collect a revenue share from each sale through our Mobile Associates program. The share of revenue that you receive is different based on the category of product that you sell. However, it's the same revenue share that you would get from our traditional associates program. So our mobile associates program gives you access for that in the context of your app. If you want to sell more than just one product, or one product at a time, you can actually collect revenue from an entire shopping cart's worth of products as well. When you do want to get mobile associates revenue from an entire shopping cart, we will need to pop out to the Amazon UI for checkout of an entire shopping cart, but you will get the mobile associates revenue share on the entire shopping cart. So that's a pretty neat way to gain additional revenue from things that are complementary to your app. I've seen people put stuffed animals as physical goods that they sell from their app, kind of stuffed animals that match a game that they're playing, or hard items like a physical GPS device, or shoelaces for hiking boots. So there are a lot of choices that you have here. For example, where do you put in-app purchase items? How do you do that? One of the great ways to find out what really is and really isn't working is with the A/B testing service API. The ABI, the AB service is actually more than just AB. You can actually test a whole bunch of different workflows at once. Because, I mean, if you've ever wondered if your in-app purchasing workflow really is maximized for purchase conversions, we can help you with that. If you wonder whether the text that you're using on buttons is really working, then you're going to want to use this API. For example, there was one of our developers who, instead of having, in an in-app purchase, do you want to purchase, you've used up your hints. Do you want to buy more hints? Yes or no. They tried changing the text to yes and no thanks, and they tried changing it to get more hints, or no hints this time. And they were able to test that and find out which actually converted more users. You can do the same thing. And it's not just testing button text, but you can actually wrap classes inside the A/B testing service code, so that you can put the in-app purchase dialog in different places in the workflow and figure out which one actually converts more users. If you're not interested in in-app purchasing, but say email signups, you get to decide using code what consists of a successful outcome, whether it is a purchase or an email sign up. You can set your own success criteria. When you do this, every user who downloads your app will get programmatically assigned one of the different options that you've selected. And you could decide whether, for example, in the graphic on the slide, maybe you want to say that 25% of all people who download your app get A, 25% get B, C, and D respectively. Or you can change the weights. If you want 50% to get A, and then split the rest, you can certainly do that. This is handy when it's obvious that maybe options B and C aren't working and you want to try A and D. So maybe you want to change that to 50% A, 50% D. You can do this directly from the app portal. You don't need to resubmit your app. And when you figure out that D really is the one that converts the most people, you can go ahead and inside the portal, you can say that 100% of people get path D, and you never have to resubmit your code, and it's all really easy to do in the online portal. Again, this works on all Android devices. So regardless of what store that you sell the app from, you get data results from all of the apps that you sell, either on Amazon App Store or on Google Play. This is a very, very powerful service that you can use to figure out what's going to work best, not just for your Android apps, but when you figure out what workflow is great for your Android apps, also use the same workflow on your iTunes or your Apple apps. It's a way that we're going to help you make money everywhere. One of the other things that we can do is help you stay engaged with your customers through Amazon device messaging. This lets you push a message to some of your users or all of your users, and you could use this very similarly to the way that you use the Google messaging service. It sends a JSON package, um, sends a JSON package out to to our server. Our server takes a JSON package and sends it out to the devices. And the device will wake up your app and pass it the JSON file, and then your app can do with it what it likes. So again, very similar to the way that Google Messaging is working. Next, we have Amazon Maps. Excuse me. We have Amazon Maps, which is a great way of engaging your users with interactive maps. Available only on Kindle Fire devices, Amazon Maps gives you the ability to do custom overlays, and geocoding is free with Amazon Maps. And there's a great, easy to use conversion guide from V1 of Google Maps. Amazon Game Circle is one of our most exciting APIs. This actually helps your users engage socially with a game or app via leaderboards and achievements so that they can share how well they've done. Also, they can share, special challenges. So if you want to set up a challenge or badges, you can say if you get to level 5 without losing any of your character lives, you'll get a special badge, and you'll reach an achievement. And users will actually really try hard to get more achievements than their friends who are also following on the leaderboards. This is great because it really helps drive time spent in app. And as you probably know, time spent in app is critical for getting people through your in-app purchasing and exposing people to in-app purchasing. So it really does help with that. WhisperSync actually syncs game progress across devices so that regardless of what device they're playing on, they can start right where they left off, which is super because it's a very low barrier to entry way for them to play your game on whatever device they happen to have in front of them. The bottom line of being able to track their progress with leaderboards and achievements is 38% higher conversion rates for IAP items, which results in about 83% more average revenue per user. So if you've got a game, absolutely use Amazon Game Circle. Also, Game Circle can be used to great advantage for educational apps. So if you have an app that's trying to teach spelling or grammar, you can give kids special achievements, or you can track their progress so that stakeholders in their education can keep track of their progress. And while you don't necessarily have in-app purchase revenue as your first goal, it does help students spend more time within the application, engaging more with the educational content, which is a big win for educators. So, recap on the ways that the Amazon App Store can help you make more money with your app. Reach, we talked about being in almost 200 countries. It's the only store on Kindle Fire tablet devices, the tablet device with the largest market segment share of Android tablets in the world. So that's a great place to be. We've got the programs and promotions that don't require any coding from you, the APIs that do require coding that we've just covered, and other neat things like Amazon one-click purchasing and the Amazon name brand. One-click purchasing means it's really easy, and there's very little friction for a user to complete a purchase using our in-app purchasing API. The Amazon name brand is very helpful because people know that we'll stand behind what we sell them. So if a user is unhappy with a purchase they've made, we actually do refund money for app purchases. And that helps people feel more comfortable about spending more money with apps through the Amazon App Store. Next on our agenda is a little bit about the Kindle devices. We currently support 5 Kindle Fire devices in market. We start with a standard definition 7-inch screen that has a Wi-Fi connection and runs API level 10, all the way up to an 8.9 high definition device with Wi-Fi and WAN and runs API level 15. As a matter of fact, the first gen is the only one that runs API level 10. All of the others are actually running API level 15. You can see the chart of screen resolution and abstracted density. One of the things I want to let you know about this chart is that um, you'll notice that the Kindle Fire HD7 and 8.9 devices call themselves HDPI devices. In reality, they're a lot closer to TV DPI than HDPI. The device will self-identify as an HDPI device. So if some things are very precisely designed for HDPI as opposed to TV DPI, it may look a little funny. So just remember that we're closer to TV DPI than HDPI on those devices. The hardware is, again, pretty similar across our newer devices, particularly the HD devices. The big difference is we've got a lot more memory on the HD devices than we do on the standard definition devices. We also have a front-facing camera on the long edge on the right-hand side of the HD devices. This will be important when we think about device rotation, because any assumptions that you may make about um, where the camera is or what the camera orientation should be may not be correct unless you're actually doing absolute orientation detection. So you can't just assume based on rotation. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the newer devices have really great stereo speakers. So movies and videos and games sound great, even when you're not using headphones. And they've got some pretty fast Wi-Fi as well. Our high-end 8.9 device also has Wi-Fi and 4G or WAN. And we'll talk a little bit about that moving forward as well. Again, take a look at the heap size differences for our larger 8.9 devices. Why a larger heap size? Because a lot more pixels on the 8.9 screen means a lot more memory. And so we've increased the heap size to help with that regard. Feature detection versus device detection. We really hope that you do feature detection. Feature detection is likely to work better with a lot more tablets and a lot more Android devices, so that you should have less specific code to maintain. You can query about device and hardware. For example, on the previous two slides I showed you, it showed you some hardware features that are unique to some of our devices and not others. And you can pretty much figure out what device you're on by doing feature detection. If for whatever reason you can't do feature detection, you can do device detection. We would like you to start by querying the OS to figure out the device manufacturer. If you would need to actually get device IDs specifically, we have those online at developer.amazon.com/SDK. And we have that table for you that you can use for absolute device detection if you need to do that. So how do you make sure that your app is going to be compatible with Kindle Fire devices? First, you need to know about what features are unsupported, what permissions and intents we don't support, and our user experience specifications. We are kind of picky. We do test all of the apps that are submitted, and we test to make sure that they actually do what they promise. We got an app in from a company that was supposed to show users video of football highlights for the week. And instead of seeing video and audio of football highlights, the user got a PowerPoint slideshow to music of all the great goals that were scored or the saves that were made, which wasn't exactly what we were expecting. So we asked the developer to either change their product description or go back and change the way that the app worked to make sure that the user was going to have a really good experience with the application. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk a little bit about compatibility. So the Kindle Fire devices, well, we have a slightly different launcher on our Kindle Fire devices than are on standard Android devices. We do this because we believe it's a lot more accessible to a lot broader range of people than the default Android launcher. And because consistency is really important for us, and our user base, we don't let people change themes, wallpapers, screensavers, lock screens, anything that would manipulate the launcher or the home screen interface are not allowed by policy. Also, we believe that a consistent keyboard experience is pretty important. So we want to make sure that um, applications don't go and change the keyboard. We do actually help some users acquire devices by letting them pay less for a device that's subsidized by ads on the lock screen. So lock screen customizations are also not allowed, so that we can continue offering the Kindles at a lower price for people who do want to receive ads. And we need to make sure that those ads can and do get delivered. Geolocation is something that we need to talk about specifically for the 8.9 device with 4G WAN. We do have find location capability on that device, but only on that device. We use course location. In other words, we use our Wi-Fi maps that we get from Nokia to determine course access, course location on our other devices. So if you want to use the find access location, the find location um, uh, if you want to access find location in your application, you may feel free to do so. Just make sure that if you have course location, that will work as well as you degrade from that. The tablets aren't phones, so of course phone-based permissions aren't going to be supported. That is probably stuff that you're pretty familiar with. So um, make sure that you take advantage of that. One of the primary reasons that apps fail our testing is because they actually do try and use phone-based permissions and intents on the tablets. Um, for devices that are not targeted at tablets but are targeted at phones only, one of the other things that they do is the app fails to work when they get SMS messages or when they get calls. So make sure you're handling your phone-based permissions and intents correctly and degrading correctly if those aren't supported. We do have a full list of the unsupported permissions and intents at the URL on the screen, so that you can find out what the bulk of those are. Intents, again, we have a list of unsupported intents. Again, most of them are phone intents, but we have a list of them. One of the things that I'd like to give you guys a heads up about is a mistake that I made when I first started coding. I had a share intent, and I know that we have a mail client on the device, so I was expecting that the share intent would go ahead and launch give me the option of launching my mail client, and it didn't. And for the life of me, I could not figure out what was wrong. I spent an entire weekend trying to figure out what I wasn't doing right. As it turns out, um, the mail client responds to intent only after it's been configured with a user email account. Otherwise, it has nothing to do with that intent if an email account hasn't been configured. So if you're trying to do a share intent and you're trying to figure out where the mail client went, please do configure the mail client first before you go and test that and expect to see it. User experience specifications. These are things that are not specific to Kindle Fire per se, but are good for Kindle for tablets in general. For example, use all of the screen. It's really annoying when I see phone apps ported to tablets that leave huge blank areas of white space, or letterbox the application on the screen. That looks really unprofessional. And if it's really annoying and really bad, for example, if it's taking up less than 80% of the screen because it's letterboxed, we'll probably reject that app based on a bad user experience. Please also display all of the elements correctly. One of the things we see when people port phone apps to a tablet app is that on rotation, we see views not displaying correctly and overlapping incorrectly. This is a, a more common problem than we think it should be. So please do in your IDE or when you're testing, test to make sure that the elements all display correctly in both landscape and portrait mode. What we've discovered with the Kindle tablets is that they're they have as much landscape use as portrait use. So that's really important. Also, we have an internal standard for a 7mm tap target. This is to, again, make sure that all of our audience can be successful and have an easy time with tap targets. If you're converting from a different form factor, this can be a challenge, particularly if you have not been in the habit of using density pixels for buttons and things like that, and particularly for user input fields. We see, particularly in landscape mode, that a lot of forms end up dropping off the bottom of the screen. And when the keyboard is up, it can be really difficult to navigate to other inputs, or when you're at other input fields, to actually see them correctly. So please make sure that when you do ask for user input, you test that landscape and portrait and make sure that the user inputs are fully displayed. One of the other things that we see, which is very awkward, are apps that don't use standard gestures. For example, if you do a page swipe motion, it should change pages, not pop up a menu. We saw an app where you would think you could pinch to zoom or expand, but it took you to the home page. So that's really confusing, and that's something that we would probably send the app back for, asking you to respect standard Amazon or standard Android gestures in the apps that you submit to Amazon. The soft key toolbar is the other thing that we do that is different than standard Android. The standard Android toolbar is going to show up on the bottom of the screen in both portrait and landscape mode. In the Amazon tablets, we move the soft key toolbar to the right-hand side of the screen in landscape mode because we found that the vertical real estate on the screen is most precious in landscape mode. So we give you more of that vertical real estate by putting the soft key toolbar on the right-hand side. One of the other things you can do with the soft key toolbar is call a full screen mode. And in the full screen mode, we actually collapse the soft key toolbar and put a little drag handle at the bottom of the screen that the user can flick to reinstantiate the soft key toolbar. By being able to minimize the soft key toolbar, we can give your app more screen real estate should you choose to use it, and give the user a better experience, say when watching videos or playing really immersive games on device. So here are some of the specifications around the size of those status bars and soft key toolbars. Again, I don't expect you to have this memorized. There will not be a quiz at the end of the webinar on these numbers, but these numbers can also be found on developer.amazon.com SDK. So just know that these numbers are out there on the site so you can reference them later. State retention after hibernating. Again, standard Android best practices work here. Remember that when the device is left alone for a while, it'll hibernate, or if the user taps the power button, it'll turn off the screen and hibernate to save battery. If your app is currently doing a large download, or if your app is currently processing something, um, please use partial wake locks or partial Wi-Fi locks instead of full wake locks. Excuse me. Full wake locks tend to use a lot of battery power, and we really, in most cases, don't need the screen to stay on for a lot of processing or a lot of work to continue. So a partial wake lock and a partial Wi-Fi lock is best for that. Please release the lock when you don't need it. And in the sense of being a good corporate citizen, it's good to use a finally block to ensure a lock release when you're coding. Device orientation. Remember the discussion we had a little bit ago about the camera? This is pretty important. The default landscape orientation on a Kindle Fire device is defined as rotation 270. What this means is that the camera will be on top when the device is in its default landscape mode. That's a counterclockwise rotation from portrait to get it to landscape. The default for most other Android devices and tablets is rotation 90. So this is different, and it's something that you should pay attention to, because if you assume rotation 90 gets you into default landscape mode, the camera's going to be upside down. Um, so what this does is it leads to three commonly seen issues. So if you're seeing a camera preview that's upside down, or if your camera capture is upside down, or if your accelerometer controls are reversed, it's probably because you're looking at a rotation 90 for default landscape instead of a rotation 270. So go ahead and query absolute orientation to get that from the device, and that can help avoid a lot of confusion. Special consideration for our WAN users who are using a 4G connection. When we sell them a 4G connection, we really want to be careful about soaking up all of their bandwidth with unintentional large downloads. So we have a single file transfer limit of 50 megabytes. And if it's going to be over a 50 meg download, we really want you to require that being done on a wireless network or WAN. Similarly, if you're going to be streaming over 5 megabytes of data, please let the user choose whether they want to continue doing it on their WAN or 4G account, or whether they want to wait until they're connected to Wi-Fi before continuing to download. We appreciate the consideration for the user's bandwidth. Thank you. Device optimization. Okay, we've talked about how to make sure your app is going to work well on the device, but how do you make sure it's really going to be beautiful? We're going to cover a few things that are really going to help make things sing. For example, you may need to know what the correct user agent string is for our web client. Notice that the Silk, the optimized browser, ships on all of our Kindle Fire devices, and it has browser optimization turned on. For web views, however, when you call a web view inside your application, we do use the same Silk browser, but without the network acceleration features turned on. HTML5 video is supported. Flash is not supported. Hardware acceleration is on by default on our devices that use Ice Cream Sandwich. So API level 15 devices all have hardware acceleration turned on. The only device that does not have hardware acceleration turned on is our API level 10 device, the original Kindle Fire. Screen layout and resolution. Please, please, please use density independent pixels for element sizes and scalable pixels, SPs, for text size. That way the text size respects users' font size choices and will also probably do the best job of adapting to different sized tablets and different sized layouts. Building your UI with a relative layout makes it a lot easier for your app to move back and forth between device sizes. We've seen some pretty gruesome looking linear layouts show up on tablet. And for the mobile ad API usage, let the mobile ads API automatically size the ads for you, so you don't need to worry about specifically specifying the sizes. So use wrap content and match to parent to get the Amazon Ads API to just work fine on the device that you're using. Please exploit the real estate. When you expand a phone app to a tablet, you often get some of the ugly white space we talked about. One of the good solutions that we've used in the past is using fragments. So in a given activity, you can have a static view with, say, a set of menus in it, and that can change the content of a fragment sitting on the screen next to it. On the phone, you wouldn't have the view in a fragment. You just have two different activities. You can do that in two different activities, but on the tablet, you can have one activity show both, but show the content from the menu result in the fragment. Optimize for dynamic resizing. Again, fairly standard Android practice. And for the mobile ads API, remember that you've got interactive ads as a possibility. So if someone taps on an interactive ad, the API has a way for you to tell if the ad is interactive and if it's going to play audio and video. If it does, please do pause your application, or certainly your application's audio and video, so that you don't get conflicting streams there. We have an HD designation program that lets you have an HD badge in the store. Again, it's a great way to differentiate your app from the others, and it's pretty easy to get. Make sure you design for HDPI or TV DPI, as depending on how picky your app is on precise pixel location. Build it with relative layout, and make sure that the ads fill the appropriate width of the screen. And the app's graphics should be native resolution. If you take really tiny graphics and you scale them up, you'll end up with some pretty nasty pixelization, and that won't qualify. If you letterbox your app on screen, that probably won't qualify either. We pretty much need to have the entire screen filled in order to get the HD designation badge. If you're running video, please run the video at 24 frames per second and at least 720p, and then you can get the HD badge. To make sure that you are being considered for the HD badge, please do check review for HD designation and type that in the testing instructions when you submit your application. Developer support. So what happens if everything doesn't work exactly the way you thought, or if I've told you that you can find something on our website documentation that you don't see? Where can you go? Well, on the developer portal, you can see the third menu item from the right on the top is support, and you can type a note in that support, and a real human being reads that. A real human being may not respond to each and every question we get, but a real human being does actually read everything that you send to us. So get started at developer.amazon.com. Welcome, and you can go ahead and sign up for your free account there. By going to developer.amazon.com SDK. You can start by downloading the SDK with the APIs and Eclipse plugins, and you can get the APIs. The APIs almost all come with sample code so that you can see how that works and how that's implemented. You can get help from some of our social networks as well. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and we've got a great blog that talks about solutions to common problems that we see, or announces new APIs and new services that you may want to take advantage of. Again, if you want to write to us and have a real person read it, send mail or send a note using developer.amazon.com. Help, contact us. Wow. Okay, that was a lot of stuff. We've covered a great deal. A lot of people are participating with us. Adobe Air, Cocos Unity, we talked a little bit about that earlier. And we have exactly 0 minutes left. But I do want to make sure that if you had any questions, you had an opportunity to type those into the question panel. And we'll go ahead and collect those and get back with answers to you just as soon as we can. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your taking the time this evening to come and enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
इसमें